And welcome back to Retro Wrestling Games Presents. I'm your host, Alex G. And with me this evening is Matt Riley. How you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm doing better than Robert Kraft.
Oh, boy. You getting a little rub and tug?
The funniest, it's a sad situation because I'm like, guy's a billionaire. What are you doing? Like, just ridiculous. Poor woman.
And his wife is like a supermodel and shit.
Oh, no. His wife died years ago. He was dating I say dating, but he was with a woman who was very attractive.
Yeah.
And, everyone I know is like, if you're a billionaire, don't you just say to someone like, hey, you're 55 years old, you're single, you want to just be my paramour, do it that way. Nope, he's going to go to a seedy Florida strip club, or rub and tug.
I think that was probably part of the appeal, to be honest.
It could be.
That it's dirty, and it's he's probably a kinky guy under normal circumstances, and going to this place is what got him off, apparently. So,
who knows? Maybe that's his thing. Going to seedy dives, and like some people like going to seedy like hole in the wall restaurants to get like the hot chili or whatever, and some guys like going to the hole in the wall to get a handy.
Yeah, bless his heart.
The glory hole.
So in this episode, we're going to take a look at WWF Raw for the Xbox. Now, this game was released in 2002, and it was for the Xbox. Now, I had this game when it first came out. This is one of the few games I had before my Xbox exploded. So,
okay.
It's funny, though. It's funny to me that Microsoft is still in business. They would have so much faulty hardware. I went through 360s. Like, I got the Red Ring of Death and everything. And the fact that they're still making consoles, and they're losing this console generation war, although they did win the last one. But it's just amazing to me that people keep on buying Xboxes even though they blow up.
Oh man!
So this game was released by THQ. It was the last game prior to WWE 2K15 that was released for the PC as well. So Microsoft. Again, this was an Xbox exclusive. So I miss the days of when you had two different wrestling games on the different consoles. GameCube had their own wrestling series, their own WWE series. The PlayStation had their own WWE series, and Xbox had their own WWE series, and they were all different. They weren't the same game, and I kind of miss those things because you get to see different things and different takes on stuff, and you're more likely to get a better game when there's at least some sort of competition out there between these developers. So. Yeah. Unfortunately, now we're stuck with the one game, and that's all you get, and that's it. Now, this game wasn't necessarily well received when it came out. I see a lot of 6 out of 10s, 2.5 stars, 7.8s out of 10. So it wasn't well received when it came out, although I liked it when it came out. I thought it was a good game. This is the last game that would take place during the Attitude Era, so it has all your Attitude Era type of accoutrements, as they would say. It feels very Attitude Era-ish, which is good. And I see that on a next generation console as well. This game does have some major weaknesses, and it has to do more with the game modes. So it was very much lacking in game mode. So there was no story mode, which is a big deal. It was a big deal when these games were coming out at the time. They've gone away from that, and they brought it back, and what have you. And this game did not have anything like that. And when you're touting superior hardware, which Xbox had over the PS2, the PS2 had lead time, so they had a lot more games, and people already had them in the home. But Xbox is supposed to be a superior system, and if you look at simple tech specs for the most part, that is accurate. But I guess when it comes to anything else, it's gameplay trumps all. And the gameplay on this is not bad. It's pretty good. It has to do a lot more with momentum shifting than kind of beating someone down with a health bar and then getting a pin on them. So I guess it's kind of more realistic, I guess. One of the big things is that, some of your top tier wrestlers, your Steve Austins, your Rock, your Undertakers, they would fill up their momentum bars quicker than, say, X-Pac or Just Incredible, which I guess is realistic to a degree. But you kind of want to have these guys on at least an equal chance of winning here. It does ramp up the difficulty a little bit. Again, it has all your move sets here. The way the wrestlers walk when they do the entrances feel kind of robotic and strange here. Again, I don't think they were able to take. I don't think they were able to develop because this game came out so early in the Xbox lifespan. I don't think they were able to use all the hardware and developmental time to have a good looking game here. Although it's not necessarily bad, it's just not as good as it could look.
Saw Perry Saturn with Moppy, so
yeah, that was fun. No, it wasn't.
Crash, Jericho, Rock, Angle, Rikishi.
And that's one of the things that the big thing that we're touting with this game is, like, you can beat up the Undertaker and he drops his bandana. You can go and put it on during the match and that kind of shit. So it was very like item heavy for some reason. So you're able to collect these items, would be like a microphone or a kendo stick or a nightstick or whatever, and use them in the matches.
Here's a quick aside for you.
Yeah,
you probably know this. Why did they go to the American Badass gimmick? Like, what made them say, you know what? Undertaker's, yeah.
If I remember correctly, he had went away for a while. I think he had an injury, and he just came back as the American Badass.
That was it.
That was it. But it didn't last. People say it lasted for a while. It didn't last very long. By the time we get to WrestleMania 20, he makes his return to WrestleMania 20 back as the zombie Undertaker. So people liked it though. I mean, he was able to talk. He was able to be more himself. The whole I'm going to make you famous and this is my yard. All that stuff started with the American Badass. So,
oh boy,
he decided to be a biker for some reason, which is, I guess, is more in tune to what he is in real life. So I guess they were looking to have a more realistic approach with the Undertaker. He was actually being more Mark Calloway than the Undertaker at this point. Another thing that was not great about this game is that they have the blood effects were all removed from the game. So there's no blood in this game, folks.
What?
Yeah.
That's the whole reason I played NHL '93. Was the
And it's funny or not, because if you play a modern WWE game, there's blood all over this fucking game.
Really?
And there's no blood on TV, though. In 2002, there's blood all over the fucking TV show, but there's none in this game for whatever reason.
See, I think if they wanted to make blood in the game and video games now more impressive, have it be a thing where you get beat by someone, so when you see blood, you're like, oh shit, I'm bleeding.
Yeah.
Or like, slow you down.
It has no effect on the gameplay. It's just aesthetics. For the
yeah.
most part. Roster includes Al Snow, Albert, The Big Show, Billy Gunn, Bradshaw, Bubba Ray Dudley, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Christian, Crash Holly, Devon Dudley, Eddie Guerrero, Edge, Farouk, Fred Durst as an unlockable character.
What?
Awesome. Yeah.
Fred Durst. Oh.
Rollin'. He did Undertaker's theme music. Rollin'. Remember?
That's a shame.
I know a couple of people who still like Limp Bizkit, and I often wonder why. Like you can't. Limp Bizkit is so 2001, 2002 that it's almost insane. We have Funaki, Haku, Hardcore Holly, Ivory, Jeff Hardy, Just Incredible, K Quick, who is R-Truth, by the way, Kane, Kurt Angle, Lita, Matt Hardy, Molly Holly, Perry Saturn, Raven, Rhino, Rikishi, The Rock, Shane McMahon, Spike Dudley, Stephanie McMahon, Steve Blackman, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Tajiri, Taka Michinoku, Taz, Triple H, Trish Stratus, The Undertaker, Vince McMahon, William Regal, and X-Pac. missing quite a few guys in here, like where's Booker T?
King
or
Booker.
Ric Flair, or Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels, was that when he was out of the business?
Yeah, I mean, he'll be back pretty soon. I mean, he's back but they had him in the games prior to this, so he was always like an unlockable character or whatever, or a hidden character. So no legends in this game. I mean, there's enough legends on this roster, I guess, but like no Andre the Giants or Hulk Hogan's here. So what are you gonna do about that? But I think overall the game is pretty good. I enjoy the game, so I'm a little bit biased, so because it's hard to say, oh, this game sucks. And I look back at it, I played it again, I'm like, it's not so bad. It's pretty good. I mean, obviously SmackDown is a superior game. I think we would all, that's just a consensus here that, the SmackDown series at this point was superior. But, nice little entry here. It's probably on par with the GameCube games that came out during the same time. So, no issue there. And this, they had to change the name of this game because this is when the WWF changed their name to WWE. So you get yourself a nice early copy. It says WWF on it. So, I always wonder how they fucking lost that fucking lawsuit. I blame the XFL for that shit.
XFL?
Yeah, might as well just blame it because I think they were too busy doing other things.
Oh,
kind of fell between, this fell in between the cracks here. But,
I think they probably thought, all honesty, they thought it was so obvious where maybe the lawsuit, they were like, well, you were called the WWF, and that was fine. I remember that happened, being like, what?
And WWE still, it's a shitty fucking name. I'm sorry. I still call it WWF. I stopped correcting myself a while ago, but I think most people will go back and forth. World Wrestling Entertainment. I remember when that came out, I'm like, this shit sucks. I fucking hated that shit. That shit was fucking stupid. It still is stupid.
Yeah.
Again, the name of this game is Raw, and I want to talk a little bit about Monday Night Raw in general and the kind of the evolution of Monday Night Raw. And I guess for those of you who don't necessarily remember, what preceded Monday Night Raw was a show called WWF Primetime Wrestling, which is a show that I enjoy. I really did like Primetime Wrestling with Gorilla and Bobby. And I think that's a concept that some wrestling company, if not the WWE, should bring back. Just due to the fact that they spent 2 hours weekly recapping angles and just having like random matches. You know what I mean? Nothing of note necessarily happened on that show. They ran a couple of angles there. There's a Piper Bobby Heenan angle that they ran on there. There's the Red Rooster Bobby Heenan angle they ran on there also, going into WrestleMania 5. But for the most part, they didn't run any angles. They would just recap what happened either on Superstars or a Challenge. And they would essentially have house show matches. So matches that, these are fresh matches, stuff that you see on the syndicated shows. So these are all first run matches. You may have seen them if you had, MSG or Nesson, because you would get the house shows. Mm-hmm. But these are, for the most part, these are first run matches, of just no consequence. Like, these matches didn't mean anything. They were just matches that had matches. And I think because the way wrestling is today, and you get your 3 hours on Monday, you get another 2 hours on Tuesday, and there's always like something going on or something supposed to be happening that doesn't give you any time to breathe and kind of let shit register before the next thing starts happening. Yeah. And I think what Primetime did is like, all right, we're just going to calm everything the fuck down, and we're just going to go over, and we're going to hammer these angles home so everyone knows what the fuck is going on.
Yep.
Like, you go week in and week in on Raw today, you don't know what's fucking happening. And they're really hard to follow. They're not an easy to watch, wrestling show at all, the current product. But I'm a big fan of Primetime Wrestling. I think if AEW was smart, they would have a show like that. I think, if the NWA, I think that's the show they should have with two, like, really, like, big personalities. Would it be, Jim Cornette and Tony Schiavone would be awesome as a team on that. That would be fucking awesome and hilarious. And they can have the back and forth, and they can make fun of each other, and they can talk about what's going on. You need like these recaps of like people talking about what's going on. I'm not talking about like they do in the pre-shows, because those are all trash.
Right.
Like when they have like Renee,
Booker
and
T,
Booker and Jerry Lawler and
the guy with the
podcast guy, whatever his name is. That's shitty. That's shitty. But when they had Talking Smack, and that show was fucking fantastic. I love that show. They were able to do that a lot better. I think they should bring that back, Primetime Wrestling. But like many other things must come to an end. And by the time you got to like 1991, they already changed the format of Primetime. They went with Vince with a studio audience, which is weird. What? And then eventually, in late 91 going into 92, they went with like the round table of it's like Vince and it's Hacksaw and it's Bobby and it's Mr. Perfect and it's Slick, like all in the studio around the table just kind of debating what's going on. And that didn't work. And the ratings were declining. And shooting all those house show matches were very expensive, and Raw essentially at the beginning was a cost-cutting measure. They were looking to cut costs. What they didn't realize is running that Manhattan Center was very expensive. So they ran the Manhattan Center. If anyone knows anything about the Manhattan Center or running wrestling in Midtown Manhattan, it's very, very, very expensive to do. You also have union stuff that you always have to worry about. And sometimes these buildings, like, when they do a show at Madison Square Garden, they're not allowed to use their own people. They have to use the Garden's people. And maybe Manhattan Center, like, you have to use their equipment. So it's very weird how that kind of works out. And it made it very expensive to run. That's why they didn't run the Manhattan Center for very long. Eventually, they went to other smaller venues throughout the country. But then, at that point, the cost-cutting measure was kind of a wash at that point. But Raw debuted on January 11th, 1993. And I remember being very excited. Again, I watched the first one live. Did you watch the first one live when it debuted?
Oh yeah.
And that was, it was a big deal. I think it started earlier. I want to say it started at 9 o'clock. I remember. You know what?
That was Flair and Perfect, right?
I don't know if that might have been on the first show. No. Maybe no. Flair and Perfect was after the Royal Rumble.
Okay.
I think the main event of the first Raw was Undertaker versus Damien Demento.
Okay.
It's initially intended to be like a C show. Like, obviously, all your angles were run off the superstars, and this is supposed to be like, something kind of fun or whatever. It quickly evolved into being the A show by 1994. By the time Superstars was like during the new generation, it's kind of took over as the top show, the A show. But I remember a couple things I remember vividly about watching the early Raws. Number one, the lead-in for Monday Night Raw was. Any guesses what was on right before Monday Night Raw on USA?
Knight Rider.
No. Close. Sort of.
You say close?
Sort of.
MacGyver.
It's close. It was Murder, She Wrote. So I was always catch the last 5 minutes of Murder, She Wrote before Raw. I've never watched a complete episode to this day.
Fun fact about Murder, She Wrote, besides the fact that everyone's grandparents loved it, was that there's a woman I follow, Pushing Up Roses, and she breaks down the episodes because what else are you gonna do? And one thing she talked about, which I've always stated as my thought up the flaw with the show, was that Jessica Fletcher would always solve the mystery by revealing a clue that was not revealed the whole entire show until the last 10 minutes. That's not a mystery show. Like I always said, any good mystery show gives you all the pieces, lets you put it together. That's not how you make a clever, they're so clever. No, they're not. You just held everything out. Like, for example, if you ever watch CSI Miami, or any of the CSI shows, it's always the same formula. The first guy they go after is the first guy to look at. And then they go back, and then they have some episode part where they go and they go look at the crime scene again. And it used to be so funny because they'd be the same crime scene, and he would look to the left and be like, wait a minute, what's that? Like 10 feet away, in the bush, is a gun. Like, you're a terrible cop. And
That's why I was like Columbo.
Because he look funny at you?
Well, the whole concept of Columbo is that he was pretend to be an idiot. The villain or the killer would reveal themselves because he's such a moron. That was the concept of Columbo. He was pretending to be stupid, and then he would catch him at the end. Was the concept. But But before watching Monday Night Raw, I would switch over to NBC at 8 o'clock. Was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air I used to watch before Raw. And because there was nothing else on at 8:30, I would have to watch episodes of Blossom. Which, looking back, I watched a couple of those episodes recently. Those are not. That's not a bad show. That's a pretty good show, Blossom. It's not bad.
Blossom
had a lot of adult themes in there that as a 10-year-old I didn't necessarily get, but I get them now. So.
Oh no, the bike store owner trying to touch me.
That was Different Strokes, which is a weird episode. Because Arnold left his friend to get molested, and he got molested.
Arnold,
way to be a good friend.
What a great friend he was.
Man, I felt bad for Dudley, man. Felt bad for Dudley.
Arnold's like, you stay here.
Like, he gave us wine to tell us to take off our clothes. What? I say this, that Different Strokes had the very best, very special episodes. My favorite being the one with Nancy Reagan. If you guys have not seen the episode with Nancy Reagan, go back and watch that episode of Different Strokes with Nancy Reagan. It's fucking awesome. There's also the one that Arnold pretended that he had some terminal disease, so he could meet Muhammad Ali. That's awesome. Good stuff. But Raw in general, it was a different type of show. It kind of reminds me more. It was an old school type show. Like, it really was in its inception. It was very much in the studio kind of wrestling. It was very reminiscent to Memphis wrestling. It was very reminiscent to Georgia Championship wrestling, at least in its inception. You had the small buildings. You had Vince out there with Macho and Ron Bartlett, who apparently was a big time comedian in New York, but I've never heard of him. And I live in New York, and I was 11, so we knew who Todd Pettengill was.
Yeah.
Because he was on the radio out here. So we've heard of Todd Pettengill before he even debuted at WWF, but we don't know who Rob Bartlett was. And then basically throughout the years, Raw, made its transition to the A show. I can't tell you exactly when that happened, but I would assume it's sometime in 1994, probably leading up to WrestleMania 10. They become the A show. I think maybe 9, maybe WrestleMania 9, maybe it was when Hogan came to Raw that first time off his hiatus. When he came out with Brutus Beefcake after he was eventually attacked by Money Inc. The week before.
Money Inc.
Man, New Generation Wrestling was fucking god awful. Like, people complain about wrestling today, and rightfully so in some cases. But, like, watch your late 93, 94, 95 WWF, like, that stuff is all horrible. Like, I had stopped watching regularly at that time. I switched over to the fucking WCW. Because 1994 WCW pre-Hogan was dope as hell, and that's completely underrated. No one talks about it. Like, you had Flair and Steamboat back on top, and you had like matches, like random matches, like, oh shit, it's fucking Great Muta and Steve Austin. Like, oh, that's fucking great. Then Hogan ruins it for a while when he comes.
Oh, I always felt that when Hogan showed up, it was just shitsville.
Like, it gets better. Like, when he first shows up, it's not good.
To me, it just felt like they were dropping everything for this guy, and to a degree, I understand why they did that.
Yeah, because these first pay-per-views set their records. Like, when he came in for that first Bash at the Beach, like, it broke all their previous records, so it's like, obviously Hogan was a draw. Yeah. But from a technical standpoint, from a wrestling fan standpoint, from a storyline perspective, from a match quality perspective, it all went downhill until they started getting in some of the cruiserweights and the luchadors. And then that's the start of it, when stuff started to change. When Eddie Guerrero started coming in, and Chris Jericho came in, and Benoit was there, and then they do the NWO thing, and it kind of really turns around for them at that point. But 95 is rough. Like, go back and watch that 95 uncensored. Like, that's a rough show to watch. But in terms of Raw, it becomes the A show eventually, pretty much through attrition. Like, Superstars, at least in New York, I don't know what station it was on up in Boston, Matt, but it was on the Fox channel up here. And I forget what year it was, but when Fox got football, that was it for Superstars. Like, it was over.
Yeah.
I think they changed the time slots, and eventually they just canceled it outright. So I think they may have moved it over to USA, because then USA had a bunch of shows like Action Zone and some other stupid. What was the other one? It was Livewire, Action Zone. They had Blast Off, like a bunch of weird shows, like in '95 and '96. So definitely Raw was the number one A show at that point, and I don't think it really kind of found its footing until it went from Vince and Bobby and Savage. I guess it was at a certain point it went to Vince, Lawler, and then JR, then eventually JR and Lawler, and I think that's when they really kind of found their footing. Because there were some shit fucking Raws for 95, 96, and 97, and then they go right into the Attitude Era, and then that's when everything kind of changes. Now I deride the Attitude Era for a lot of different things, but I gotta say this: their TV show was actually, their show itself was actually fairly entertaining, and there was always you always felt like they were adding pieces to the story. They weren't rushing shit. Yeah, some of the matches were crap. Some of the angles weren't that the greatest, but it was a nicely produced television show. Yeah. Not as slick as, say, like Superstars from '89, because that was probably overly produced. But there's enough craziness and tomfoolery and surprises where they would keep you engaged for the 2 hours. So I think Raw's biggest mistake that they ever did is eventually when they went to 3 hours. Because you look at that show right now, and people complain about this wrestler not being pushed and that wrestler not being pushed, and the storylines and the angles, and yeah, that's all fine and dandy. My biggest issue is, number one, the show is too long. Yeah. That's first and foremost, and the production's horrible. And people say, "Oh, it's HD, it looks nice." It's like, watch that show from a production standpoint. I feel like I'm going to have a seizure because the shaky cam, and they do 1,000 camera switches, and they switch the crowd like this is fucking 1990 fucking global, and like, why are you panning the crowd? They're going for these reaction shots, but like they switch the camera before the person hits the move, so it's like
yeah, something doesn't work.
It's awful. I don't know what's going on with Kevin Dunn. Historically, he's made shows that are in shitty venues. Like, you go back and watch WrestleMania 7, like, it looks great. I don't think it was even sold out, but he can make arenas look beautiful. And and I don't know if he's I don't know if he's done or he's past his prime. He doesn't have it anymore. But the production of the WWE show currently is fucking the Jewish little shits. So Matt, what are your thoughts about Raw over the years? And
this video game's intro music is one of my favorites. Absolutely, I just love that. Yeah, it was good. I think it's gotten to a point where it is too long in the sense of, I know everyone says, well, it's a number one show, and I get that, but you have to think of what today's culture is like. People aren't sitting down for 3 hours. Like, I'm on my computer, I'm on my phone, or, whatever, and if you're watching, like, you just record it and watch it later.
Especially if it's 3 hours of not good wrestling.
Right.
Like, we can sit through an hour of bad wrestling. We did it for years.
Right. Even like Saturday Night Wrestling with 605, it was fine because it was a mix of wrestling and there was a squash matches. George South, Italian Stallion. But I think now it's just at a point where it's multiple factors. Do I think they could do a 3-hour show? Yes, but they'd have to put other things to fill it. And one of the big things I think their problem is that they go to the same stuff over and over again. In a sense, like, oh well, we know so-and-so's popular, keep wheeling them out there. And it reminds me of like the overexposure Wolverine, Punisher, and other characters have had over the years.
The 90s especially.
Right, where you see them in every crossover, every issue, and it's like if there's something out there, they're in it, and then they're the star of it. It's like, you know what? No.
I hate the fact that they start off with like that 20-minute fucking promo. Like, can we start off with a match, please? Is that a possibility? Can we do that?
Yeah.
I think if we'll talk about some of the greatest moments in the history of Raw, I think most of them are going to be Attitude Era related. To be completely honest. There's notable exceptions from that. Like there's the Punk Pipe Bomb promo. That is off the charts. The Nexus Invasion, which they didn't do anything with, but that one event when that happened, that was dope as hell. But a lot of it though, like you end up forgetting, like, oh, that happened on Raw, or did it happen on SmackDown? Like there was the Billy and Chuck wedding when it was Bischoff with the old man makeup. I'm not even sure if that was a Raw or SmackDown. I want to say that was a Raw. No, I think that was a SmackDown. See, a lot of that stuff you're like, I'm not sure where that happened, and I forget. But again, you don't go back to Attitude Era type stuff. Obviously, DX did the parody of the Nation. You want to talk about the beer truck with Austin. You want to talk about Austin and McMahon in the hospital. The Rock, This Is Your Life. Those were all like really, really fantastic stuff that they did. I'm not talking about the choppy PP thing with they did with Val Venus and Contact. That was stupid. Or Mae Young giving birth to the hand, which it was cringy back then. You watch it now, it's still cringy as fuck.
Yeah.
Like it's just like fuck this. Notable moments and early Raws. I guess you have that Perfect Flair retirement match. That's a big one. Hogan's return is another big one. And that's necessarily all that is. Not a lot of cool shit fucking happened for throughout the new generation era. They would do stuff like Raw Bowl, which was weird, and they did that for early Raw, and they were really it took a long time to really kind of find their footing with that show. And to me, criticism aside, I'm glad they stuck with it because they could have easily canceled that in 2 years and went with something different. But they did. They stuck with it, and although their format has not changed since 1997, and it should change, that format did work out for forever. Like it worked out for a exceedingly long time. So they had a hit on their hands, and they milked it fucking dry. And I would say right now that SmackDown is the superior show. If you pick the three. If you're going to pick NXT, SmackDown, or Raw, I think everyone with their right mind would say NXT, and that show's only an hour long. So, you can sit there and you can watch like 205, and you can watch NXT, and you can watch the NXT UK show, and that's 3 hours. That's the same amount as Raw. I'd probably be more satisfied with that than actually watching a full episode of Raw. I think those criticisms are valid. Not that we're WWE haters or Raw haters necessarily. I think in our heart of hearts, we want them to do well. We want to watch quality wrestling, and quality wrestling is different for everyone. And I think something that people need to understand is like what I think is great that other people may not think is great. So Like, I really like WWF like 1989, 1990, 1991. I'm willing to say that the majority of people probably do not enjoy watching a random superstars from 1990. I do. So in terms of WWF Raw for the Xbox, it's an okay game. I'd say it's average at best, just due to the fact that if you're a big fan of the Attitude Era, this is a game that you probably must own. If you're an Xbox enthusiast, this is a game that you must own. You know, otherwise, for the most part, you know, this is a skip. You're better off playing SmackDown. Alright guys, so we are officially out of time. So, for Matt Riley, I'm Alex G. Have a good night.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?